I go by Joy Stays Free on all platforms, and I'm excited to be here. I want you all to know that some of you will hear some of my story probably a little bit later. If you have anything else that you want to ask me about staying free, you want some tools in your arsenal, we can totally talk about that. So if you have anything to put in the chat, I'm going to be looking over here to the side to make sure that I'm catching everything that you guys are putting in the chat. All right. So tonight we are talking about staying free. Okay, so this is a series that we're going to do. It's a 4-part series. The first one, if you didn't catch last week's live, you definitely got to catch it, because last week we talked a lot about those 4 different points. Okay, those 4 different points that are super important, right? The first one is life, love, laughter, and legacy. And we talked through what does it look like to have life, laughter, legacy, and love, and what are those things in your life? Like, why are they important? Why are they tools in your arsenal to stay free? Why are those things important in your life? And if you haven't thought about those things, if you didn't catch that live, go back and check it out, because I want you all to know that these are the tools that you need. So for anybody who's joining me for the first time via YouTube and Facebook, this is how we talk in the Stay Free Studio. Everything that we talk about here is how to be free, how to get free, how to stay free. That's exactly what we talk about here. And so I go live to give you all these tools to help you all understand some of the things that we could be doing so that we don't get stuck in life, so that those things that actually do get us stuck, that can get us caught up, those are the things that we're able to work through, the things that we're able to move past and move toward those things that are way better than, you could have ever imagined, right? So a little bit about me. I was able to help myself, move past a lot of the different blocks that I had. And part of that was understanding that there is a life to be lived. I had to live a life. What's going on, Steph? There was a life that needed to be lived. I had to live a life that was pleasing to my God, that was satisfying to me. And I wasn't going to be stuck. I wasn't going to be stagnant in my life. And it was really difficult for me to understand, why I had to value these things. What was necessary? Like, why did I need to value life in general? And sometimes, I don't know if anybody's been in one of those dark spaces where they're like, what is the point of all this? Like, what is this for? I don't quite understand, what's going on, or why we're going through the things that we're going through, or why I'm coming up against the obstacles I'm coming up against. But let me tell you, it is so that you can learn how to leap and how you can walk through fire and how you can get through things, because tough stuff comes in life, right? And all of us can attest to the fact that there are some tough things that will rise up to us in life. And the question is, how are we going to get through those things? Do we have a support system? Do we have the wisdom that we need to walk through it? Do you have a support system? What are those things that you need to stay free, right? So that you can be the best version of yourself, so that you can walk in purpose and be exactly who God has called you to be. So tonight, let's talk about life, right? And I wanted to just wish everybody a happy Black History Month, because it is important for us to celebrate one another. When it's International Women's Day, we're going to be celebrating that. When it's time to celebrate Latina and Latino people, we're going to be celebrating them too. It's important to celebrate, like 4th of July, whatever that holiday is for you, where we celebrate all people. We need to do that, because I want us to understand that there is unity in freedom, right? When we are free people, we can unify people. And when you're free of mind and of heart, you will not allow things to hold you back. When you are free of mind and you are free of heart, you will not allow opinions of people, the judgments of others, you will not allow those things to hold you back, because you know that you have a bigger purpose, right? So go ahead and put purpose in the chat. If I can see you, put purpose in the chat. You know for a fact that you have a purpose, okay? And so in that purpose, it's important for us all to just cling to these few points that I'm going to give us tonight, and then we'll move on to questions. The first thing I want to touch on is just basically, I kind of have an acronym for it, right? Staying free from anger and anxiety, right? I said anxiety earlier in my post, but I really want to talk about anger and anxiety, because both of them stem from fear, right? Sometimes when we have angry hearts, a lot of times it really is a fearful heart. We're angry because we're afraid that this person won't accept us for who we are. We're angry because we're afraid that this situation won't turn out the way we want. So we lash out at other people. We say things out the side of our neck that we didn't mean. And then most of the time we'll go, oh, my bad, I was angry. I'm sorry that I said that in my anger. The Bible tells you, be angry, but do not sin. But a lot of times that's it's intermingled. It's meshed in together. And that's something that, it's difficult to really look at face value and say, oh, that person's angry. They're just mad about something, but they really could be afraid. A lot of times fear manifests itself in a bunch of different ways. And so a lot of times you'll see people use fear as you'll see anger as a mechanism where they're deflecting. They'll push things off on other people and say, oh, I'm just angry because this, that, and the third, when really they're afraid. Really, they are afraid. They're afraid whether it's at home, in a relationship. It doesn't matter where they are. Sometimes they're just fearful. And in the fear, sometimes you just have to speak to the fear and say, what are you so afraid of? Why are you angry at me right now? And we always talk about how we're going to respond, right? So when somebody's ticking you off that way, and you feel like you're getting angry to the point of disrespecting someone or moving out of or not being in love with somebody, that's something that you have to check in and of yourself. And on top of that, anxiety, it is a side effect of fear. It is fear. The root of anxiety is fear. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? And I feel like fear is one of those monsters that keep people so bound. They keep people so bound. And I once was bound by anxiety. I once was crippled by my anxiety. And I know on here we talk about not saying my anxiety because I don't want you to own that. I don't want you to take that on and say that it belongs to me, because it doesn't. But when I dealt with anxiety, that's what I was saying. I was like, my anxiety is holding me back. In all actuality, it wasn't mine. It didn't belong to me, because I knew who I was on the inside and I knew who I could be. I knew that I had visions and goals and dreams that I had to move forward into. And I was allowing fear and anxiety to hold me back. And so today I just want to present to everybody, let's talk free in the Stay Free studio. Let's present it. Talk through this, What is that thing that is holding you back, that is manifesting itself in your life as anxiety and overwhelming anger? You just mad all the time. You mad at everybody, ready to pop off. Try Jesus, don't try me. Boom, I'm ready to pop off at everybody. I know a lot of people like that just get angry, 0 to 100 real quick. What's the deal with that? Is there any love? Is there any joy in your heart? And so let's talk about valuing life. And I know when I talked about my post earlier, I knew that it was something that, people were like, oh, is this really about Black history? Is it about Black Lives Matter, anything like that? And I'm like, to be honest with you, these are fundamental things. And the experience of the human should be important to the next human. My life and your life are extremely valuable. I should value you and you should value me. That's exactly how we're designed to walk together and build together. So if I'm afraid of you and what you're going to do, no matter where I come from, or I'm afraid of your background, or you're afraid of my background, how is that going to allow us to live in freedom to develop unity like we just talked about? It won't. It's going to block us. It's going to block us. It's going to block you from being your best self, because the moves that you need to make to fulfill your purpose, you won't be walking in purpose because you're afraid to go to a space because of the anger you have towards someone else. Y'all see how that works together, right? You're afraid to move into a space because you're angry about a certain person's background or their culture. We can't do it, y'all. We got to work together. We got to do this. We got to get into, this space where we can stay free. So moving to the next point, right? So that first point, staying free from anger, staying free from anxiety, right? Staying free from those things. The next thing we're going to stay free from is bitterness. Okay. Bitterness is something that I feel is this thing that comes up in your heart that really you can't get rid of. It's that way of looking at someone, that way of seeing someone where you can't get past it. You're like, I just can't get past what this person did to me. It's hard for me to forgive them. It's hard for me to move past what they did to me. And then that develops into just what the word says, bitterness. Your heart is bitter. The way you talk to people is bitter. It's like nasty when it comes off your tongue. You ever meet somebody and you be like, dang, he is just, ugh. A lot of people say, oh, their energy is bad. Sometimes people just need to forgive. They need to stop being so bitter all the time. True beings. They just need to do that. Forgiveness is really where it's at. And how do you develop a bitter heart? From holding on to things that you feel are more important than valuing your own life and valuing the lives of others. Well, I can't get past what that person did to me. Well, we're going to have to find a way to be free, because what that person did to you is festering in your heart, and whatever is going on in your heart, it's preventing you from moving forward. And a lot of times, what I've noticed even in my own life is someone who I found that I'm becoming bitter towards, or if I was angry at that person for an extended period of time and I find myself not really forgiving them, I am more consumed by what they did to me than they are of what they did to me. Like, they're the person that has moved on and they're living their life, whether it's a bad breakup, whether it's an organization, a boss, something, like anything that could have happened to you. Most likely those people have moved on and they went to live their good lives, and no one's thinking about it. No one's thinking about what happened to you. At the end of the day, they're not. So we talked about this a few weeks back. You are the only person that's going to be with you. So you got to love you. You got to make sure that you stay free so that you can fulfill the purpose that God has given you on this earth. And it comes back to valuing your life, valuing the life that you have, valuing the life that you have been given. And so let's just talk for a little bit about that practical step. What does that look like to value your life? Self-neglect is a real thing. It's the opposite of self-care. And actually, in the opposite, it means that you're moving away from basically caring for yourself in a way that is self-sustaining. And we'll talk about that when we talk about legacy in a few weeks. But sustaining yourself and moving into the what God has given for you to do, like moving into that. If you are not caring for your body by eating healthy, by exercising, and no one's saying that it has to be perfect, but it does have to be progression. It does have to be progress. And so all of those different things that we are excited about, that we're excited to move towards, let's really look at those things and say, we're not going to self-neglect. We're going to move forward into self-care. And caring for yourself, I don't know what it looks like for you. I know for me, a lot of times it's just taking some time to be quiet, to be still, to just chill. Like, I just need to take a step back from doing all the different things that I'm doing. I'm a mom, I work at the church. I work, I have a full-time job, and I'm running a business. Like, it's a lot. I love every single part of it though. And I'm going for it, and I'm living my life, and I'm excited about every single aspect of my life. But that's the main question. Are you excited about those aspects of your life? Are you excited about them? And if you are you moving toward a place where you can remove bitterness from your heart? Are you removing those things in your heart that are difficult to get past? So one of those things that's difficult to get past, because when we celebrate Black History Month, some people may be very bitter at the fact that African Americans even want to celebrate Black History Month. And I even put this out to a lot of the allies today, those who are encouraging and those who are moving towards supporting the cause of African Americans in America, right? And really all over the world, but really any other ally that is supporting the cause of all people in this country, because there's a lot that needs to be said and a lot that needs to be done for a bunch of other cultures. All of us that live here together, there's a lot going on with the poor, with the orphan, with the children. Like, there's too much happening with all of our demographics. There's too much hate. There's too much bitterness. There's too much anger. Okay? There's too much anxiety. It's too pervasive. There's too much stigma toward the mental health community. Okay? And I feel like when we mix all those different things and whatever labels they are, and we mix them in with culture, a lot of times what we're not doing is hearing one another. And most of the time we just want to be heard. And that's a human thing. That's not a Black thing. That's not a white thing. That's not a Latina thing, Latino thing. It's not a Native American thing. It is a human thing. Sometimes you just want to be heard because of an injustice that's being done towards you. If you have a cause that you're passionate about, you need to stand behind it and rally people to stand behind you, because we wouldn't have the world that we're in today if we didn't have people rallying behind particular causes that were for the betterment of humanity. And so I tagged people today because I wanted them to understand that when we all rally together and when we can stand together and say, I'm not going to be angry towards you, I'm not going to hold a root of bitterness towards you or your people. What we are going to do is we're going to move toward unity. And I know that sounds real utopian and it sounds like something in a fairy tale, but to be honest, a lot of us humanly are not free. And that's why we can't move forward. It's because your mind is not free, because of what so-and-so said to you in your own home, because of what had the seeds of bitterness that have been implanted in you, whether it's a racism, whether it's prejudice, whether it's bias or stereotypical thinking, whatever that is, prejudgments toward a type of people or color group, or it doesn't matter, enter the blank. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You have to sit down with yourself and say, is this particular thought process holding me back from being a better human in this world? And then to take it a step further, because I strongly believe in God and I know that I belong to him and I know that I'm his child. Are you reflecting God with how you treat your brother and sister who look different and act different than you? Are you purposefully excluding them or omitting them from your life just because? Because you're not free of mind, because you're not free of heart, because you just don't quite understand how to reach out. That goes back to the first point about fear and anxiety. If there's anxiety with you for speaking out, for those who cannot speak for themselves or those who need help, like coming alongside of people where you have power to change something and yet you won't say anything about it, that's called anxiety, and you need to be free from that. It's anxiety. You having anxiety from even sparking a conversation with someone of a different culture, with a man or a woman or a transgender person or someone who is a part of the LGBTQ community, like, it makes no sense. It's anxiety. It's something that's holding you back, and we got to stay free. Because you never know what that person can teach you. And that's what I want us to all understand, is that we have something to learn from each other. And I feel like some people are still trying to stay in their own corners, and we don't want to say that your trauma and your experiences and the things that have set you free, or the things that have set you free or set you back, can't affect me, or I can't learn from you. That's impossible. Because guess what? Newsflash, the brain holds trauma and it holds pain in the body just like anybody else's. It does not know the difference. And we'll talk about this with laughter. Your brain does not know the difference between physical and emotional trauma and pain. It just don't. It's a chemical. So if you have trauma and you have deep-rooted trauma that is cultural, I can learn from you. I can learn from your story because it's a human experience. And if you've gotten free from something, if your people have overcome something, they've overcome a barrier, I got something to learn from you because you're a conqueror. And we talk about being conquerors here. The African-American experience, you can learn something from Black people. Just like we could learn something from white people, Hispanic people, like name the person, fill in the blank. We're not just going to name drop here, fill in the blank. You can learn something from their experience. Doesn't matter what it is, fill in the blank. And the point that I'm trying to drive home here is that, do you value life? Period. Do you value life? If you say you value life and you say you want to live your life to the fullest, we got to remove these things that keep us from staying free. I really want y'all to hear me tonight on that. You have to, because guess what, bro, sis, you will not be living your best life if you walk around with bad energy and bitterness in your heart toward another culture. Check it. It don't matter who you are or what complexion you are. Multi-ethnic, multi-racial, doesn't matter. If you're walking around with bitterness in your heart, you will not be freed. So let's move on to this third point that I really want us to talk about, because we're talking about different people groups. Comparison. And this is the last point that I want to kind of go on. We talked about anger and anxiety, bitterness. I want us to remember that comparison, this is a quote, and I don't even know where this quote came from, but comparison is the thief of all joy. You comparing your struggle with someone else's struggle is preventing your learning process. It's preventing your growth. That kind of talk that says, well, you didn't go through what I went through. You didn't triumph what I triumphed over. I feel like that you're still comparing your struggle. You're comparing your pain. And comparison of pain, it makes no difference because we're all very different people. And if I say something to you that rubs you the wrong way and you have a reaction to that, it may not affect the next person the next way. And we have families and we work with people and we have friends. We know that that is the absolute truth. What affects me may not affect you. Even among cultural and people groups, it's the absolute truth. So if we ever want to be free from really anything, that thing that causes us to compare one another and say that my struggle is not your struggle or I don't go through that, that's comparison. That's a spirit of comparison, and we got to cut that out. Oh, well, you don't have it as bad as dot 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 people. Oh, well, they don't have it as bad as so and so people. The end of that sentence is people. What's going on, everybody? We hitting the last points here. Freedom from comparison is what we're talking about. And so I wanted to bring this up during Black History Month because a lot of time, even among Black people and African American people from the African diaspora all over the world, Black people like to compare themselves. Well, you're not this kind of Black person, or you're not that kind of Black person. And then amongst us in America, we're really good for keeping up with the Joneses. Are you a rich person? Are you a poor person? Do you have so-and-so? Do you got this? Do you got that? How many followers you got? Doesn't matter. Are you free? Are you free in your heart? Are you free in your mind? Are you staying free from anger, from anxiety, from bitterness and comparison? Apparently not. That's the issue that we're having, and that's why it's difficult for us to move forward and stay free. A lot of us are harboring things and stereotypes and prejudgments towards other people and these stigmas, and we're entering our beautiful, purpose-filled spaces with these things that are holding us back. And today, I just want to give a quick example, something I was thinking about earlier, even as I was at work. I'm thinking about how to help families who don't speak English as well, who have anxiety, getting their children help, because doctors, and I'm not throwing all the doctors and nurses out there because I appreciate what y'all are doing during COVID, but to be honest, a lot of doctors have a lot of prejudice when it comes to people who don't speak English. And that's from my personal experience with clients, where because they don't speak English, you can tell them what you want to tell them and do what you want to do. Unacceptable. Find a way. I'm so sick of us not finding a way to communicate with people who may not speak English as their first language. It's disgusting to me and appalling. It's ridiculous. And so sometimes we're all speaking a different language here. Oh, you don't understand the language of my people. Okay, well, help people understand. And if they don't want to understand, just move on. But what I'm saying to you is, if we don't want to take the time to understand and speak other people's language and to understand what they're saying to us, we will not learn and we will not be free, because it's comparison and it's bitterness. And we got to cut that out. We just do. It's something that's holding a lot of our people back, everybody as a whole, as a conglomerate. Pick the person. It's holding all people groups back. Coming into a setting and not moving in your purpose because you have a judgment. You have something that you have a lens that you look through. And I don't want to say that these lenses we throw out, because they make us all beautifully unique. But when I'm waving the flag that says, hey, this is the thing that makes me me, I can't take off my flag. I'm a woman and I'm Black, period. Like, that's it. And a lot of us are sometimes wearing that on our sleeve. We're wearing our demographics just out there, something that we can't change about each other. And at face value, whenever we encounter these people, whenever we encounter different kinds of people, it's like something that we choose not to look past that, and we don't learn. We don't hear the suffering of a person. We don't hear what they've gone through. And I think that that's why a lot of people are out here really hurting and holding a root of bitterness, because people have not been heard. And so just for us, for the Stay Free community, for the conquerors, you are an overcomer. You can conquer. You can overcome, no matter what prejudice that you've endured, no matter what type of bullying or animosity or anger that you've endured at the hands of someone else. You can be free, because you don't have to hold anxiety, you don't have to hold bitterness, and you don't have to compare your struggle with someone else. You can be free from your own struggle, no matter how deep that pain was, no matter how deep that trauma was. And I know that I'm talking to somebody today because I feel it really, really strongly. No matter what it was, you can be free from those things. So as we kind of like wrap this up, and I want to kind of go over these points, I felt like during Black History Month, it was important to hit on this point first before we move into anything else for the rest of the month, to talk about the value of life and these beautiful things that we want to enjoy together. But sometimes our family life, our financials, our faith, even just our communities, they're impacted because we are walking around as bound people, people who are free in act, but bound in mind and heart. Freedom is a full process. It is mind, will, emotions, freedom of soul. So I just want us to really just kind of grasp that and know that being free from anxiety and fear is one of the main things that we need for unity, period. You have to be free from anxiety and fear. And we can talk about that. You can definitely schedule a session with me if we need to walk through some of that deep trauma. We definitely can do it. But I just want to give you guys some tools to say, hey, self-assess a little bit. We'll self-assess and we'll say, am I fearful when I walk into a space where people don't look like me? Or when I encounter someone who doesn't believe what I believe? Am I intimidated? Am I fearful? Am I bound in this area? Am I holding a root of bitterness in my heart because I don't want to bring up a certain subject because I feel like I'm going to step on toes? Be brave. Open up a conversation. So what? We are not going to sound right all the time. We're not always going to say right things all the time. And the problem is we all know it. So why don't we just give each other more grace? Let people of other cultures and ethnicities open up conversations with you and stop shutting them down. Being like, "Oh, you didn't say that right. Oh, I'm offended." Well, that's because you're not free in your heart and your mind. That's why you can't allow people to open up their conversations with you. Learn from people. No matter how deep rooted your pain is, you have something to learn from someone who you feel like you have nothing to learn from at all. And so, to be honest, sometimes, even as an African American woman, I walk into conversations and I'm like, this person can't tell me nothing, and I have to check myself and be like, yes, take a step back. Yes, they can. We all are like that. It's pride. It's self-righteousness. We got to cut it out. And we all struggle with it. So let's just cut it out. So I just really want us to stay free from, we just kind of gave an ABC thing. First thing was anger and anxiety. I tied them in together because a lot of times the root of anxiety and anger is fear. Bitterness, staying free from that root of bitterness. And 3, staying free from comparison. That's comparison of suffering, comparison of triumphs. We got to support one another. We got to move past, comparing our struggles and all these different things. So all these different things. So I'm definitely, let me see. We are moving past. I'm working 2 systems tonight. Thank you for coming. If anybody has questions, now is question time. As we wrap up, put your questions in the chat or in the question box, and I'm super, super excited. So if you have questions on whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in, and I'll see if I can actually see them on here. And if you have questions at the bottom, go ahead and put them in. So I just wanted to talk through that. Like, do you value life tonight? And I just kind of want to speak to this thing because I feel like it might be important. If you feel like you have no reason to live, I just want to put this out there. You have a reason to live. And I want you to not just look at the circumstance. The question is, am I still going to Clubhouse after these lives? Sometimes we hang out here for a while and then I run out of time. But we can definitely move the Clubhouse if you all want to do that. I think that would be fun. So for those of you who don't know, follow me, Joy Stays Free. And we can definitely head over to Clubhouse if y'all want to do that. I had a few people that were like, no, we just want to do Q&A and that's it. So then I had the Clubhouse and then nobody comes. So I was like, okay, well, we'll just stick with lives. So we can definitely go. If you guys are going to meet me over there, I'll go. So questions, concerns, let's talk through it, right? Like, because this was a lot. Like, this was a lot. And here in the Stay Free Studio, we got to talk about self-evaluation. Are you evaluating your heart? Are you evaluating your heart? Do you know where your heart is right now as it pertains, do you feel some type of way when someone is, acknowledging their struggle, when someone's sharing with you, when someone is proud of their culture? Do you feel some kind of way for somebody being excited about their culture? I feel like that's a problem. We need to talk about that. And I don't mean in an extremist way, because it's important to be proud of your culture. Even if you are a Caucasian immigrant from Europe, be proud of your culture. And I feel like I have something to learn from your culture, from your people coming here as an immigrant, no matter how that worked. There's something to be learned from history, period. And we just got to learn from each other. And how we learn is being open-minded enough to hear one another and listen and ask questions and not be afraid to ask those questions. And then once we hear the person, we're not going to close our hearts again. We're going to say, well, how can I make it right? Or how can I make it better? Because that's what you would want as an apology, right? I know sometimes that's like tough to say, right? So I'm excited to have you all here. I'm going to end the stream over here on YouTube. So I'm excited for you all. You'll definitely see me a lot more. So thank you for joining me on YouTube and on Facebook. So I'm going to head over there and see if you guys were able to join tonight, and anything else we need to work out over there, we definitely will. If you haven't clicked the link for the merch yet, definitely go ahead and do that. Go ahead, Instagram. Typically, we got questions in here. So go ahead and put some questions down there. Join me at freeconqueror.com. If the link is in my bio, if you would like to schedule a session with me to work through some different things, the link should be in my bio. The other thing is you can go ahead and email me and send me your email and your contact information, and we can connect there. Zandre Music is on here. Go ahead and follow him. There's an event coming up called 21 Perspectives that he will be doing constantly throughout this month, and you definitely don't want to miss those. So turn on your notifications for those. That will be exciting, and I got to check my date, but I believe it's the 19th that I will come up, and you guys will just watch out for that. Don't forget to turn on your notifications. There's a lot of stuff happening. Definitely go ahead if you want one of these sweatshirts and long sleeve shirts. They're on my website, and so you can go ahead and find those at freeconqueror.bigcartel.com, or you can just go ahead and click the link in my bio and take you right there. So if there are no questions, y'all know I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna go ahead to Clubhouse if that's what we want to do. So that's where I'll be. I really appreciate you all for joining me tonight. I'm super excited for it. So see you guys later, and I'm